many have been wondering the same thing about the stock market. Maybe it's time, to go small. I mean, this has been one of the worst routes ever for small cap stocks. They're getting a lot of attention and they're beginning to move. My next guest has been watching it all very carefully as well. Joining me now, Main Street Asset Management LLC Chief Investment Officer, Aaron Gibbs. I'm glad you didn't have any more titles. I almost ran out of breath.
Yeah,
Before we start with the small caps, I got to give you props because you've been talking about Ross Stores and TJ Maxx. My subscribers are in Ross. They posted yesterday after the close. Initially, the stock went down. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Now it's I think it might be the number 1 or 2 percentage gainer in today's session. It's on
last
fire.
time I checked, it was the leader of the day. So yeah, and this goes to as we're looking. When we say small caps, we can just mean the smaller companies within the S&P 500, just i.e. not the mega caps, right?
So you're talking like not the 493.
Right, exactly. And this is what Ross Stores, TJ Maxx, they are the smaller companies within the S&P 500, and so there are opportunities, and we're seeing a shift not only when you do like a juxtaposition between like a Russell 2000 and the 500, like we just showed, but even if you look at the S&P 500 equal weight, which equally weights those smaller companies.
But the equal weight thing hasn't done anything this year. I mean,
it's similar underperformance, and it's similar of that turning
same
point.
Looking chart, same kind of chart.
Same exact thing. It's the same story whether you're looking at your Russell or your equal weighted. That you've just seen this 15% underperformance for year to date, and we've only seen a potential catch up in the last 5 or 6 days.
But is it too early then to do the post-mortem on why they didn't work when they traditionally, like coming into the year, small caps were the place you were supposed to be because of the economic backdrop. It has worked the exact opposite. Do you waste any time figuring out why that is, or just say, okay, they're down, they're oversold, let me start to make some moves here?
I think, for me, I think it's just something to be on the watch list. 5 days is not breaking a 2-year trend. Right, and so I think you need to be very specific about your picks, just like the Ross Stores.
So what is it about Ross that you liked that made it so attractive to you?
First of all, just within the economics, the off-price retailers, the specialty retailers, so they're not your mega caps like your Targets or your Walmarts, and so as people are being more cost conscious, but still wanting to go shopping. And there are also winners like your Deckers or your Lululemons, where people are just willing to pay for that product.
Right, they love the Uggs, they love those things.
Right, your Lululemon, where mom, dad, and kids can all shop there, great quality products. So I think if there are really unique fundamental stories or opportunities, but I'm saying right now, keep an eye on those smaller caps. I think this finally could be the end of that 2-year underperformance. And
is there any caveat you would add? Like, in other words, I think if you're going to look at these stocks, probably any stock, but even more so them, normally when I start my research process, I start income statement, cash flow statement, balance sheet. I think you got to put balance sheet at the top. You got to see how much cash they have, because they've got to go out and raise money next year. They got to pay a lot of money to raise this money.
That's right. And if you've got a ton of debt and you have to refinance that debt, that's another real weakness. So those strong balance sheets are super important. And that's actually another reason, not so much as we're talking about smaller caps, but I think Europe looks really attractive because a lot of their companies do have stronger balance sheets. They haven't been aggressive when it comes to their bond holdings. Right. They don't have to do some of these structurings. They don't have the weakness of the commercial real estate. And so Europe is looking very attractive. If you are looking at outside the mega cap world, I think that's your first stage before we go into small cap.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, you mentioned bonds. We got a minute to go. TLT is something else you like here.
Yeah, finally.
I mean, you gotta like the risk reward at least, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so finally just seeing an uptrend, these swings, and maybe finally breaking this bond bear market would be a great positive, and just all around good for flowing into equities as well.
Are you in a camp then now that the Fed is done?
Yes, for now.
And cuts? And cuts?
Cuts, I think we're a little ways off.
Okay, wow, you agree. You and Sarah on the same page there.
Yep.
All right, great stuff. Great seeing you.
Thank you.
All righty.